right. I think we're getting started here. Yep, there we go. Up there on YouTube. Then I'm going to swap this over on this right there. And now we are also live on Twitch, but thank you everyone for stopping by today. It's kind of my first attempt at kind of streaming some kind of content here on YouTube, but I'm also simultaneously streaming it onto Twitch, which is my channel where I kind of, broadcast pretty much everything I do, from video games to, gaming to filmmaking. Man, I'm kind of stumbling over my words here, trying to get the flow here. But welcome everyone to this stream. My name is Adam Welch, filmmaker, cinematographer, videographer, photographer, gamer, Lego builder, kind of a whole mix of all those things. But here we're hopping into doing and then getting started on an initial edit in Premiere Pro, just kind of seeing how this whole live stream works out here with the combination of showcasing this stuff. I've been editing in Premiere Pro for since 2011. I pretty much moved over from Avid Media Composer to Adobe Premiere when I was working at a local TV station. It was what they were using there. So I decided to learn that software, and I've basically been using it ever since. Of course, I do use other things as well. A lot of times I end up using Blackmagic's DaVinci Resolve to do some color correction. I'm really enjoying what I can do with DaVinci when it comes to color grading, mostly because I feel that the color tools in Adobe are not that great. They kind of, I don't know how to necessarily say it. They feel limiting. Like, to do some of the stuff that I do in DaVinci, I have to do a lot of layering of adjustment layers to be able to get the same kind of effect that I do. So, I do a lot of quick color grading in Premiere when I'm doing my YouTube videos. A lot of the stuff I do for the guard, I do most of that in Premiere when I'm doing quick stuff. But if it's a larger project that I have more time to work on, I end up doing the initial edit in Premiere and then bringing it over to DaVinci. Haven't hopped back into Avid Media Composer in a long time. Never really got into Final Cut. There's some oddness about how that functions I just never really enjoyed. So for me, it's basically a mix between Adobe Premiere and DaVinci Resolve when it comes to any of my editing. But here, we got my project. I actually have it set up as a production. A production, basically, for those who don't know, allows you to compile a bunch of your projects into a single container, I guess you would say, so that you can go back and view all the different items. Like, for instance, here I have a production of my YouTube videos that I'm, still kind of trying to get off the ground. Consistency has kind of been a problem for me, but what we got here is the videos I've done so far. We have all the projects in their different little buckets. I also have one listed as untitled. It's basically a template for me to use. Basically, I can replicate it, and I have all my folders and everything already organized. I'm hard nosed about keeping things organized. If I ever talk about Premiere or editing to anyone who's getting started, it's all about organization. From the moment you copy stuff over to what you do in your editing software. Bins, keep everything organized, because the biggest thing, especially in nowadays where people are bouncing back and forth from location to location, drives to drives, being organized is a big thing. Because if you're not organized, you could lose something. You could lose your progress. You could, have delays in your editing because you can't find anything. So that's where I'm kind of gonna get started right here. I got my, I have my stuff already copied over. Well, let's see. Of course, my little image is kind of in the way down here. Let's kind of move that out of the way. So that is definitely not going. Oh, well, that stinks. All right. Well, that is awful. So that should be better. Totally messed that up. Like I said, I still got to readjust a lot of this stuff because I cleared out how I had everything set up before on here, and it looks like, well, I had my audio kind of messed up there. So I'm gonna start from the beginning on all of this. But welcome to the stream. My name is Adam Welch, cinematographer, videographer, editor, filmmaker, photographer, gamer, Lego builder, kind of a whole barrage of things. I've done a lot of streaming on Twitch of gaming content, so I'm kind of meshing that stuff together now across the board because I'm trying to, I guess, get myself out there more when it comes to content creation, cinematography, videography, because that's my my major jam. Because I really enjoy editing. I really enjoy lighting. Lighting actually is my favorite thing. So any opportunity that I have to light anything is my favorite thing to do. But today we are going to hop into some getting started with some editing. I've edited for many years. I actually initially learned to edit with 2 VHS players, tape to tape. When I started going to college, initially we learned how to edit tape to tape with some DVC Pro tapes. And then I picked up a Avid Media Composer while going to school, and I used that for a long time. I had a copy of it that I used. But then when I started working at a local TV station, they were using Adobe Premiere. And so from that point on, in 2011, I started using Adobe Premiere Pro. Of course, they've added a lot of tools, made a lot of changes. I still generally enjoy using it, but it does have some shortcomings. One of them being in the color correction world, in my opinion. That's why a lot of times I will in turn lean on DaVinci Resolve when it comes to color grading, because it has a lot better tools. One of them being is just they have something called nodes that you're able to divide up your corrections, your adjustments into different segments. Yeah, you can do that in Premiere. It involves doing adjustment layers, but I find that to be a lot more cumbersome, in my opinion. It just tends to be just a little bit more difficult to deal with. The effect ends up being relatively the same. I just find it easier to do a lot of that grading in DaVinci. Now, I want to check one thing. I want to make sure that my audio is coming through here. So bear in mind with me, because I just want to make sure it's all working. Oh, there we go. Cool. I got to reset up OBS a little bit better. I had cleared everything out because initially I had been doing a lot of Twitch streams in here, Lego building, some other stuff. That's not the case. Basically, the way I've set it up now is my Twitch stream does 24/7 of content I've shot, some of my short films, some of my YouTube videos, and so that's running 24/7. And then I interject gameplay and some of these, other live streams that I'll probably start doing. Of course, today we're kind of getting started with some editing stuff, and we're doing our first live stream on YouTube here. So going to be a little bit of bugs. I kind of did this on a whim. I was kind of amped up after recording some new content, some new YouTube videos. So I was like, hey, let's give this a try and see. I guess what it's like to be, streaming on YouTube and see how it potentially might drive, content and stuff. So, as I said, we were saying, moved in over to Premiere Pro in 2011. So that's what I've been primarily editing with, except for some color grading stuff. I've dabbled in Final Cut a little bit, especially Final Cut 7, but once they moved to Final Cut 10, wasn't my jam. It just, there's something about it. It felt a little too consumery. I know there are certain things it has over the other ones, but it just felt a little too consumery. I just have really enjoyed using Premiere Pro, in combination with DaVinci Resolve. That kind of different tool for different situations. I feel like those two are my jam. I haven't really gone back to a media composer for any reason. Could I pick it back up again if I had to? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, editing software is editing software, and they pretty much, it's where are the buttons located? The process of editing at the end of the day is the same. I mean, once you're an editor, you're always an editor, no matter what piece of software you use. But anyway, we're hopping in here, and we got my my YouTube videos production. And if you've never used a production before, basically what it is it's a combination, not a combination. It's kind of like a bin for your projects. A bin is a storage compartment where you could put all your files you're working on within your project. Well, a production then in turn can, organize all your projects you're working on that are all the same, that are all basically one production. In this case, being my YouTube videos, they're all under the same production. What this allows you to do is share assets between them that are the same. Like, you might have the same intro, you might have the same ending graphics. Hey, I used something in this last video, I want to pull it over to this one. You can open it up without having to, get things kind of mixed up and bring that over. A lot of times I kind of grab, for instance, my color correction I used in the past one, bring it over to the next one, so I don't have to, reinvent that wheel, because my setup here is exactly the same. Lighting is the same every single time. And so I do that to keep things easy for myself. It's also nice because then I can have a pre-set up template for a project, which allows me to, I mean, now I drew a blank. For a project, so I already have my bins and everything organized, which is nice because then I can just like, as you see here, I have something called Untitled. I can make a copy, and what we have here is, one of my projects is called "What is a Cine Saddle?" Now, you activate this by double clicking it. Now, as you see here, I have all my folders already ready to go. So I even have, I have videos, stills, sequence, graphics, exports, and audio. Now, in the past, with some of my other templates I use consistently, I have a sequence ready. I probably should do that for this one. I just haven't gotten around to doing that, because for a little bit, some of my YouTube videos were 1080, and I'm basically doing all of them as 4K moving forward. So I haven't really created a standard sequence that I'm using for all these videos quite yet. But, we'll get around to that at some point in time. There's always other things going on in life. Of course, I left one job, took a full-time job at the Air National Guard. Then I moved to a higher level position where now I'm doing things on a national level for the Air National Guard. Started taking some college classes to finish up some stuff that will help progress my career in the military. So I'm kind of, got all that going on, plus, family stuff, plus kid stuff. So, definitely keeping myself pretty busy with all that stuff. So when it comes to like little things like that, that does get kind of left behind. But anyway, so from this template, I was able to, just duplicate it or copy it, as it says, and have all my bins ready to go for this new project. The key thing here is organization for editing is key. As you also might see down below here, let's hide my camera real quick. Down below here, I have all these folders that's located on my drive. Here you see, we got my video storage drive. We have my what is a Cine Saddle folder here, and within that folder, I have, basically matching folders on the drive that match the bins in the project. That's what that way, if you go to, like, say, the audio folder, and you're looking for, okay, that one, I need to copy that over somewhere else, you can go to the same folder location and copy it over or do whatever you need to do. So it really helps you keep things exactly organized. You know where things are all the time just by looking at the project. Now I can go to that folder and I can pull things from there. Especially in today's, kind of structure of how people generally operate. They're, usually working remotely. They're moving drives all over the place. Having things organized is key, because if you don't keep it organized, you don't have things all in, proper, bins and locations. When you do go to move things around, you might not find it. Oh, hey, well, you downloaded, the music, or you downloaded some kind of, stock bit of footage, and it's in downloads or documents or on your desktop, and you didn't, keep it organized in this folder structure. Now you go move over to another computer. Hey, because you wanted something a little bit more powerful, something that you could display on a big screen for a client. Well, now stuff's missing because you don't keep it organized. That's the thing I harp on people so much when you get into video editing. It's quite a bit different than, photo editing or a lot of other stuff. While, yes, having things organized, across the board when it comes to computers, completely matters. It's more so, in my opinion, in video editing, because it can really make or break a project and really slow you down. Video editing already takes a lot longer than photo editing, just because, you're scrubbing through stuff. You actually have to listen to audio, and in real time. It just takes a lot more time, and anything you can do to save time is a plus. So organize. And, one thing I might end up doing is creating a zip file of my template that I have for my folder structure, and putting it up there for people to take a look at, download, because that's how I operate. I have a folder that I just keep copying, and I just rename it for that project, and I keep everything the same. That way, someone who picks up my work, like say if I do hand it off, and they know how I operate, they know that I organize everything the same. I mean, it should be this. It should also be that same way if you are working in some kind of like shared environment of some kind, some kind of office of some kind. You should all organize things the same way, so that if you hand something off to somebody else, they know where things are. That's why I harp so much on organization. It's like it's that hill I will die on when it comes to video editing, because it's just that make and break thing on multiple levels. Losing stuff, time saving, time management, it does so much for you. So keep that as your main thing here. All right. So here's kind of like my general layout I have here. I have the project folders over here, all my bins on the left. Let me bring up back my camera here real quick. Boop. On the left. Then we move over and we have the source monitor that, once you have a video clip, let's drag something over into the bin. Boop. And you have your video clip that your source. So you can do, you scrub through, do your in and out on that. Then you have your program monitor, which basically reflects everything that's on your timeline, which is down below here. Of course, you got your meters. And then you got your media browser, so you can track down some content. Now, I also have this kind of organized where this window that's behind my camera also has effects, effects control, lumimetry, graphics panel, sound panel, properties, text, all of that. I basically keep all of that kind of in this. I feel like this is because I feel this is the area that's going to change the most, and I don't want to generally affect my project panel, my source panel, my program panel, or my timeline. Now, the only panel that I do have something additional behind is my source, and that's where I put my lumimetry scopes. I put that there because by the time I'm done with the source panel, I'm moving on to color grading here, and this is where I can go in, and look at where my lighting, and color is. Looks like I'm probably a little too red, but I don't know. I kind of like how warm it is in that, and that's my personal opinion. Everyone has their own little taste on this stuff. But that's kind of generally how I keep all my stuff organized. Now, it changes slightly if I'm on a dual monitor setup. More that it stretches things out. Mainly the source, the program, and the timeline and the audio bar all stay on the same window, which will be on the left side. Then everything else will be organized on the left. Now, in my current setup, I actually have a ultra widescreen monitor, so I just kind of stretch things out across there. I don't really change the lower left-hand panel on the ultra wide. In the past, I kind of would try to section that off all over the place, but I feel like I'm trying to focus on one thing at a time anyway, and so that I can ultimately just change these tabs when I need to. All right, so getting started here. Since we already have our project created by duplicating the template that we have here, it creates the whole project file. Also by doing it, we've duplicated the bins, so all our bins are ready to go. So then we can go down into our folder structure. We've pulled over the clip, and now we also have audio that I recorded separately, because that's how I've generally been doing it. I basically use the same mic, put up ahead to capture my audio. Part of the reason I started doing that is so that if I need to do additional voiceovers, the audio matches a little bit better. Because before I had tried to do some videos where I had a lav, and then I needed to do some pickups of just some voiceover stuff, and I tried to do it with mic here, and it just didn't didn't match out too well. So instead, what I decided to do was to, record everything with here and put it right above the camera, up here, pointed towards me, and it actually has worked out pretty well. As long as, I got a dog in here that sometimes likes to make some sounds while he's sleeping, so that can sometimes throw things off a little bit. I could probably swap it out with a shotgun instead of this mic, but I feel like it gets the job done, and now I'm not messing with gear. When I decided to set up kind of this, I guess, content creation modules here at the side of my desk, the biggest thing is I want to be able to drop in the seat, turn everything on, and be ready to go. I didn't want to have to readjust anything or anything like that, because initially, every single time I wanted to do a video, I had to drop a tripod here, drop a camera here, set everything up. And by the time I got everything set up, I'm already just like, ugh. I'm already kind of just, mentally drained out of it. And so to me, the best option was to get it set up where it's like a permanent setup and ready to go. So what we have here is we have a Sony a7S II. Yes, it's a little older, but it gets the job done. I mean, you see in the shot in my program monitor here, that is from the Sony a7S. We got two different LUTs kind of rocking out on that. Basically a curve LUT and a log to Rec 709 LUT, and a little bit of adjustments. But anyway, let's hop back into getting started. So anyway, we got the audio copied over and we got the clip copied over. Now, depending on the approach, like if I were to record all the audio directly in camera, my first thing to do would be to transcribe the clip. What you can do is right click and transcribe. Then you can, get all the, get the transcribed script, which makes editing any kind of interview or dialogue based video, super slick, speeds things up really well. But in this particular case, we're going to do things a little bit different. Way I've basically been doing it, creating my sequence first is I drag the clip on top of here. So we got this right here. We got our whole little video clip. And then what I do is I take this audio and I drag it below. Now, before I get too far along, we're going to rename the sequence. What is a Cine Saddle? One of my favorite little tools to have in my toolbox of camera gear. So we got that copy there. Oops, I messed it up. I renamed the clip. Is a Cine Saddle. There we go. Move that over to sequence folder or bin. Keeping everything organized all the time. Now, what we got going on here is we need to match it up. I'm going to drop the audio on that a little bit, just so it's maybe not that low. And let me pop in an earbud so I can hear that as well. So. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to highlight all of these, and then we're going to synchronize. And we're going to synchronize off of audio channel 1. Give it a little bit of time. And it is a 20-something. Oh, there we go. And then you can squeeze in to double check. What I always do at the beginning is I do a 3, 2, 1 and a clap. And you see that we squeeze in here. It's slightly off. So I'm going to close out this other. Slightly off. So show. We're going to change it to show audio units. That's give you a little bit more control here. And so let's undo the magnet there. Oops. Even though, like, one thing I've noticed is that the sync is pretty good, but I always feel like it's slightly off. So I always like to double check it. I don't know how much it actually matters being off like by slight millisecond, but to me it matters. So I always do that to double check. So then what I do is I group these together for now, just so that I can move them around together. And bring this over, and then I will mute. And then what I will do is I will do a transcribe. I'm going to go over to the text, transcribe, and we are going to do a transcribe of that particular wave file. And of course, it takes a little bit of time for it to do that. And that's all based on, how long the clip is. Shorter clips, definitely a lot quicker. Longer clips like this one, takes a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, it is a complete time saver. Oh, man. Let's take this down to a quarter. As you can see, it's kind of being a little funky when I'm at 100%. All right. So you see here, let's move my camera real quick. We see 3, 2, 1. My countdown is on there. Pop that up right there. And I'm like, all right, let's move back here, blah, blah, blah. And then we get started right into the what we're talking about here. Yes, that is a log footage. I don't always shoot log. I would say it depends on the project. I've been doing a lot with my YouTube videos, partly because I'm getting, I guess, more acquainted with Sony stuff. And so I'm trying to, I guess, learn the nuances of, grading Sony footage. You could probably see over here, I have a Sony FX6. I have the A7S II now, and I also have the A7R5. So I've been shooting log for my video stuff to really get an understanding of how Sony footage works. Because previously I did a lot of stuff with Red, and I was kind of accustomed to that. So now it's kind of a change. Do you use a LUT graded or custom every scene? There is one LUT that I use quite a lot. It's basically a curve. It's a curve. I don't know if you know Phil Holland. He does a lot of stuff for Red, a lot of Red content. He had a whole package of LUTs he uses for Red footage, but it can be applied other places. And it's just a contrast LUT that I use to kind of overlay my color grading. My color grading is, like, for this setup, I keep it exactly the same. So when I do another video, I just copy that grade over to the next. Generally, I do custom for each location. I wouldn't say I do any kind of, custom, grading, I guess it depends. Generally, it's per location, like like you said, per scene. I adjust it, per shot. A lot of times I'll share it across each shot. And if it's a similar setup, I might use that same custom grading for another scene and then adjust it accordingly, especially if I'm in a hurry. Because a lot of stuff I do is for for the guard. I'm a content creator for the Air National Guard, and so a lot of stuff I do is quick turnaround. So I do have to end up using a lot of the same grading across the board, but I don't use somebody else's LUT besides the curve LUT that I use. I basically kind of make up my own thing based off of what I feel I like for that particular scene, and then I replicate it across that particular location. I don't consider myself any kind of expert when it comes to color grading. I feel like I'm pretty new. I've been diving a lot more into DaVinci Resolve when it comes to color grading because I feel there's greater flexibility. There's a lot more I can do with it, but still feel like I'm a newbie when it comes to that. Even though I've been editing for a long time, I'm quick, efficient when it comes to editing. When it comes to color grading, I can get a nice looking image, but I feel like there's something I don't quite have. There's something I'm missing. I'm always like picky when I'm looking at an image. I'm like, it's still not quite there. Like I feel like there's something that I don't quite either understand or I'm missing that I can't get every single time when I'm grading footage. So whatever that is, still trying to work it out. I feel like I need to sit down with some other color graders and get an understanding, show them what I've done and get an understanding of what I might be missing. Like I feel like I can't put what I'm missing into words. I can't articulate it, but definitely feel like I'm missing something. I mean, let's see. I'm gonna open up. Let me open up. The sequence. Okay, so this is kind of what my videos generally look like, is this one right here. This is what it starts off with. And I like the curve. I like what it does to the contrast, because sometimes I feel like things are either too very contrastless, and other times too much contrast. So I kind of like that medium contrast general range. But this is generally what I'm trying to go for at least my YouTube videos here. So, but I still feel like I'm missing something. I know part of it what it is I don't like my set design, I guess you would say. Here there's still some stuff I want to do when it comes to like the background and everything like that. I'm trying to splash a little bit of light on the wall. I got some painting issues on this wall, but I got to move some stuff around. I have a big huge Lego set here up on the wall that I need to move out of the way and put somewhere else. And when I do that, I can redesign this wall a little bit. I have this as a background because, well, one, I don't want to use my whole wall of Lego behind me for all these videos. I kind of like having my camera behind me. And I also like using the, natural light that's coming in from this window. Yes, I do supplement it with a light panel here, but I like this general setup because generally I'm looking forward here when I'm, doing any kind of video and stuff. So I'm like, talking forward, but, definitely a long way to go, I think, in my opinion, when it comes to, my skills and knowledge when it comes to color grading. I've sat in with, professional color graders and watched them do their magic, and that's what it is. It is magic. I wish I understood it. It's like I've watched videos and tutorials on how, the process, running it through DaVinci Resolve, doing different stuff, not even involving any kind of LUT or anything like that. And it's magic. Now, LUTs are handy. but should you rely on them? No, I don't let them be a crutch because I feel like they can limit you to some degree. But they are nice for quick, you know, things that you're doing over and over again. You can create your own custom LUT that you use over and over again. If you're seeing like, you know, it is here for me, it's going to be the same every single time, you know, they're great. But when you really start diving into, you know, color grading and, you know, resolve, you really come to, you know, understand how those LUTs were created in the first place, and you're able to replicate them without having to rely on them. But definitely for me, I'm still kind of learning that. But I like how this generally looks, but I feel like there's more besides the whole set decoration thing. Like, you know, I could put a little bit of splash on some of my stuff over here, you know, because I have one of my Emmys over here on, you know, on my shelf, which I wish I could, you know, put a little bit of splash on. I wish I had a little bit more texture on the wall. I don't know if the veggies on the wall here is the right thing to have because you kind of lose your camera back here. But besides the background stuff, I generally kind of like, you know, how it looks. It just, I feel like it's kind of missing something. But anyway, kind of trying to go back through my whole process of getting started with an edit. You know, we started talking about being organized. You know, we have, you know, our folder structure here that we have in on our drive, keeping that all exactly the same as my bin structure here for, you know, simplicity's sake, to keep everything exactly where I want it to be. Clips are in clips, you know, just like the clips down here will be in that same folder. Audio, you know, audio. Yes, you can, you know, break it down even more depending on the project I'm working on. Sometimes I will, you know, separate it out where you have a music folder, a sound effects folder, you know, voiceover folders, to divide it up even more, because the big thing is keeping things organized so you know where everything is. Otherwise, it becomes this big mess and confuses you, slows you down, that whole kind of thing. So organize. I'm gonna probably keep harping on that the whole time, is that organize, organize, organize. But so what we've done here is we've created our sequence. We've named it what the working title, I guess you would say, of our project is what is a cine saddle. We've dropped it down here. We've also dropped in our audio. We've synced them up. And what I've done is I've also gone in really tight to double check the sync job of this. Because sometimes I feel like you don't always up. Somehow that got shifted back again. All right, what was I saying? All right, so oops. So what we do? Okay, they're grouped together already. But I always like to check this. I don't know how much that small little movement actually matters, but I don't know. I do it I double check that all the time, just because I'm not entirely always. I don't know if I would say I'm not confident in it, but there's, see there, it shifts it again. Huh. The biggest thing is, like, I don't feel like I'm always confident in where it drops it in. So I always go through and double check it. But let's playback's being kind of funky, which could be because I'm trying to stream this. Kind of really the first time I've really tried it. There we go. Oh, come on. You know you want to. This bag might not look like much at first glance. Honestly, it kind of looks like a beanbag chair for your camera. All right. So we have our general, timeline here. And so then my next step after I've kind of gotten that laid out is I basically go through and start cutting according to each kind of line. That's why I kind of rely on the transcribe, because it allows me to kind of quickly jump to wherever I need to on the timeline. See that? Oh, nope. Yeah, that doesn't sound too good. So, so then you can jump to the next spot, and keep jumping from spot to spot until you find, let's see. This bag might not look like much at first glance. Honestly, it kind of looks like a beanbag chair for your camera. This is the Cinematographer, and it's one of the most useful and reliable pieces of gear you can have in your kit. Oh, to me, that sounds pretty good. This bag might not look like much. This bag might not look like. Hey, come on, stop! Stop playing. Definitely doesn't like me running all this stuff on here right now. Let's see. Let's close that out. Close that out. Close that out. Like, I'm not entirely sure what's eating up all this stuff here. Honestly, it kind of looks like a beanbag chair for your glance. Honestly. Like I said, this is kind of my first little attempt at doing this kind of a stream setup. So, there's definitely going to be some hiccups as I figure out what exactly I got going on here. What I want to figure out is why I'm on the struggle bus when it comes to playback. It shouldn't be too bad, because it's not like I got a lot of things going on in the background, but definitely does not like something. Let's see. Let's close out some stuff here. All right. Sydney saddle. The Sydney saddle is perfect for those in-between moments when a tripod would either take too long to set up or simply doesn't fit. If you're working at a tight space, dealing with uneven ground, or just need a quick and stable shot. All right, the other thing I want to do here is let's close out that project. Yeah, it's still giving me kind of a delay on this. It definitely probably is me trying to run the run OBS on this, but kind of is what it is. Let's see. So filter. Ooh. What I do is gonna ungroup that right now. This bag might not look like much at first glance. Honestly, it kind of looks like a beanbag chair for your camera. This is the Cinematographer, and it's one of the most useful and all right. Oops. I'm gonna jump to the end there. Gonna go ahead and cut. And then we're gonna go and find our next little bit. It's lightweight. There we go. More than as I know myself, more than likely in most of these cases, it's going to be the second go through. It's lightweight, super portable, and lets you get stable shots just about anywhere without needing a tripod or a complicated rig. So back it right there. Now, of course, I might, extend some of these, little tidbits after the fact. But what I want to have pulled up off to the side here, I need to have my script to make sure I'm not missing anything. Because I have definitely done that before with not paying attention and I end up missing one of my lines. So we got our next line. We kind of scrub through here. And like I said, generally I know that it's going to be the last one, just based off of how I normally am with this. So basically I just go through and chop up every little bit. And this is basically how I start off with any kind of edit that has dialogue. I go through, I chop up the interview, I cut up. Oops, sorry. I go through and cut up, the dialogue, get, pick my lines, pick everything I want. That way, when I go back, I know what B-roll I want to use for that section. Because I'm not going to try to formulate the interview to match the B-roll. I want the B-roll to match the interview or the stand-up or, the dialogue in general. So that's why I focus on editing all the dialogue first, and then I move over to the, stacking it with B-roll or, visuals, stills, whatever the case might be. So we got this line. Let's listen to it. Today, I'm going to show you what your city saddle is, how it works, a few creative ways you can use it on set, and why I think every filmmaker should consider having one in their gear bag. Let's dive in. My favorite little line right there that I use pretty much every single time. Let's dive in. Because why not? We all need to have our little line. So next we got the line. Cine saddle is basically. So it looks like I said it a couple times based off of this. So we jump down to this part. Get over here. The Cine saddle is basically a soft, moldable camera support tool. It's filled with foam beads, kind of like the inside of a beanbag, which lets you shape itself to whatever surface you place it on. So then we can jump it back to the end there. I mean, to some extent, by having the transcript, you can almost get away editing a whole video without actually seeing the seeing the person talk. As you see, like I've been focusing on the actual lines I'm saying. I have not even really, especially since the fact, the computer is kind of acting up here. Probably because I'm trying to do the whole stream and edit at the same time. But, I'm able to edit this whole thing without even really seeing or, seeing the actual, person talking. But this is my whole point, though, about how you can just jump through, cut out. There's a pocket in the middle that cradles your camera and keeps it stable. Because of the way it molds around everything, you don't need a flat surface to make it work. I mean, you can just hop through and chop up everything, really quickly. And that's like, I have a subordinate that I've been trying to train on, editing. This is like the whole thing. Like I told him that you need to use this transcribe. The transcribe might not be perfect. It might be, spelling stuff wrong or what have you, But at the end of the day, the thing that it does for you is it speeds up. As you can see, I'm able to scrub through you know, this whole edit without relying on the program manager, especially since it's not playing back smoothly right now. I can just go, okay, so what's the next line? The next line is you don't need to mess with mounts. So I scroll through here, and it looks like I say that line once, which means somehow I got it perfectly the first time. I can just go in there, cut that out, go to the end, cut that out again. And there we go. So then I can move on to the next line and the next line and just keep chopping up this script without relying on the visuals. And like the thing is, like for a talking head, the visuals don't really matter that much anyway. So being able to just edit based off of the transcript is super handy. And so let's see, our next line is that. And so we look for that, see where it's being said. We click on it, brings us over there. We can go ahead and cut that out. It should be the only time I say it based off of the transcript. And then we listen.
Saddle is perfect for those in-between moments when a tripod would either take too long to set up or simply doesn't fit. If you're working in a tight space, dealing with uneven ground, or just need a quick and stable shot, this thing saves. It's a lifesaver.
Nope. So that somehow I messed that up. So then we jump over here, cut that out again. It's not this one. It's not that. And then we can pull this back over and listen to it again.
Saddle is perfect for those in-between moments when a tripod would either take too long to set up or simply doesn't fit. If you're working in a tight space, dealing with uneven ground, or just need a quick and stable shot, this thing is a lifesaver.
Okay. So that sounded good to me. And so then I can go over here and cut it out again. And it's just kind of like back and forth, back and forth. And let's see, I've set it on a hood. Looks like I repeated that a bunch of times. I find crazy sometimes when I'm, doing these videos and I'm recording myself, that even when I've written the script, read the script once over, copied it over, to my teleprompter here that I use, and have the ability to read it, I still stumble over some of the stuff, over and over again. It's, it makes me really give props to actors who memorize all this stuff, because it's not easy, having to memorize all this different stuff. But we'll go back here, cut this out, and we listen.
I've set it on car hoods, fence posts, boulders, windowsills, and even the arm of a chair, and it just works. It gives you a solid, locked-off shot in places where other gear would either be too bulky or just isn't usable at all.
Okay, and then I can scrub it to the end there. Cut that out. And now you got this big old section here where I repeated stuff a bajillion times. You don't need that anymore. Boop. And do. Then let's see. And the next line is flexibility. Flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. Dude, I said that a bunch of times. But generally, it's the last time I say it that is the best take.
The flexibility of it means you can work fast and adapt quickly, especially in run and gun shooting situations or tight interiors where setting up sticks would be a pain.
So, and I can always adjust a little bit of slack I have in between these at some point in time when I'm actually doing the actual edit. But this is like more of a rough edit to get the dialogue kind of, nailed at that I'll be using. All right. And so then we find next line. Flexible. Okay, there we go. It says using. You can jump. And the other thing that helps is knowing some keyboard shortcuts. And it's not, you don't need to memorize them all. I actually have some quick options here on my Stream Deck that I need to get a little bit better about using. But C and V are two, so you can cut and move back to the pointer, or the selection tool as it's called in Premiere. But I basically bounce back and forth between those because those are the two I end up using the most. And so like going back and forth is a lot easier with a keyboard than have to hop over to this middle section here. What it all boils down to when it comes to learning anything about editing is things that can save you time. I mean, a lot of times most of the time you're probably in some kind of crunch. You need to turn around something pretty quickly. So knowing those shortcuts is definitely going to save you. And of course, the most important one, Command or Control S. Got to save that, save. I mean, yes, Premiere has the option of autosaves, or the autosaves can save you when something goes catastrophically wrong. But I definitely would not rely on those as your primary way of saving. Just, do it yourself so you know for a fact that it is saved. All right, so now we're gonna, next line, some. Yep, I only had to do it 3 times. And do the C again, close it out, and then listen.
Some versions come with straps and anchor points, which allow you to secure it to objects like car doors, fences, or railings. This gives you a little extra peace of mind when you're filming in motion or need extra stability in awkward spots.
And so, awkward spots. I mean, the other thing is that what I can do is I could always click on the end here. The one thing I need to figure out is a way that I can click on the beginning, click on the end, and cut that out. Because the moment you click on a different spot in the transcript, it goes there. And so if you have an in or out point, it gets rid of that, which is kind of the annoying thing, like when you're doing stuff in the source window. I mean, it doesn't matter as much down below here because you're using the cut tool. But when you're editing via the source monitor using the transcript, it gets super annoying. Okay, it's not just.
It's not just a passive support either. You can press and move the bag to change your tilt or slightly adjust your framing. It's not a precision tool, but with a little trial and error, you can get it dialed in quickly.
Dialed in quickly. Video might not end up being as long as I still got plenty. Never mind. First, I'm like, man, that might not end up being as long as I want. So one thing I'm always kind of concerned about is like I don't want these videos to be short, but when I end up doing a 10-minute version of these, it's definitely really time consuming. Let's see. The biggest advantage. Got that.
How fast it lets you move. There's no setup delay, no complicated balancing acts like with a gimbal or slider. You just drop it down and get the shot.
Boom, get the shot. The other thing I need to learn to do is get myself to pause a little bit before jumping to the next part of the script or something like that. So it gives me a little bit easier spot to edit from. Jump there. Can cut that part out, because that is a bad take there.
It's also incredibly lightweight. You can throw it in your gear bag and forget it's even there until you need it, and then it becomes the perfect tool for the job.
Perfect tool for the. I mean, I love my Cine saddle. That's why I made a video about it. I've had it for a couple of years now. Somebody else I knew had one for the longest time. I always saw them use it. I'm like, what is this weird thing? But then after I had been doing some, projects for PBS station, I realized when, especially with running gun situations and you have limited time, you need the option to be able to do quick setups, especially if you're trying to go for some unique shots. And so I decided to invest in one, and it's been clutch. I mean, especially like I want to go for those low angle shots. I can just plop it in there, like I saying in the video. I can just plop it on a car to set up a shot to look over a field, or have it looking into the interior of a car, whatever the case might be. I mean, you can go boom, 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 super quick without having to break out the tripod, adjust legs and all that kind of stuff. It's just super, super handy. And so I recommend anyone who does a lot of run and gun to get one. Oof. And cut that out. Should be this line.
Another major plus is that it works silently. No clunky tripod legs to adjust, no creaks or clicks. If you're shooting indoors in a quiet setting, that's actually a huge bonus.
I mean, that is definitely true. I mean, it's really nice that it doesn't make any noise. There have been plenty of times where I've been adjusting a tripod, and you're like, you're releasing it and whatnot. Even with, I have a Flowtech, Satchler Flowtech here, and I mean, which is a lot easier than other tripods, because I don't have to adjust a bajillion knobs. It's only the three at the top. But still, I mean, you're in the middle of something and, some kind of event, and you're trying to adjust a tripod, and it's just like clunk, 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 clunk. So, I mean, that's definitely one great advantage of the Cine saddle is it makes no noise. Now, of course, it's not going to be, useful in every situation. I mean, a time and a place is the case for basically any tool, but I love it. Like I said before, that's why I made a video about it. I mean, it's a short, sweet video. It's probably going to end up being like maybe, 5 to 6 minutes long, but it's one of my favorite tools. I mean, it wasn't cheap, a few $100 just to have a little bean bag for your camera. I mean, Cine Saddle's not the only option, but it's kind of like the original, makers of that kind of bag. But I love it. I love the material it's made out of. That's kind of a big thing, like this, canvasy material. I've gotten stuff on it, and it doesn't ruin the bag, doesn't soak into the bag. So definitely, love it. And like I said before, it's, something every filmmaker, especially those who do a lot of run and gun, which is a lot of people nowadays, should have one in their kit. And move that over here. Just cutting. All the initial little cuts for this video. I mean, of course, I did 2 videos. I recorded 2 videos today, so I don't know which one I'm going to actually do first, or release first. The idea was to try to get 2 of them done this week, so I can have something for hopefully by Friday, and then by next Friday, and then record a new video next week to have for the following week. Trying to get a little bit more consistent with what I'm posting on YouTube for my videos. So if you're on Twitch, which we're also currently streaming on Twitch. If you're on Twitch, head over to my YouTube channel, like and subscribe some, videos on there, show some support. because I'm trying to grow that content, trying to share my knowledge. I mean, like I've said before, I'm not an expert. I've just done some of this stuff for a decent amount of time that I have, a decent amount of knowledge. I mean, heck, I also continue to read a lot of books on, cinematography and editing and all that kind of stuff. So I try to stay up to date with everything, but I try to share my knowledge when I can, but don't take my word always at gospel. It's just a lot of times my opinion or my take or how I do things. So that's kind of my disclaimer on, my content. I mean, anyone who calls himself the expert, I think, is a little, asking for a little bit, a little bit of scrutiny. But like I just want to share what I know, even if it's not might not be always correct. It might not be gospel. It's just I like to share knowledge. All right, so you got the next line that we're gonna cut out of here.
It's also not ideal for long takes where you need to operate or pan mid-shot. If you need a true fluid head for tracking or movement, you're going to
Uh, so I think it should be this one. Think. Yep. Do. All right. Then we got they got this line here, and ooh. Looks like we should come out at a decent length here.
if you're setting it on something super slick, like a polished table or the roof of a car, you're probably going to want to secure it with a strap or a bit of gaff tape to keep it from sliding around.
And then we jump to the end here and cut that out. For the next time I try to do this, I got to figure out some settings on how to avoid what it's doing right now when it comes to playback. I mean, I'd love it to be able to actually play back. It's like I can scrub it really nicely, but it really doesn't like.
It can be used. If you're shooting an interview in a small
It really doesn't like me trying to play that through, which I do not know why. I mean, the thing and what I could potentially do is try to send the stream a different way. I don't know. I'd have to figure it out. I do have what's called NDI, which is like a network distribution option when it comes to video. I could be sending this signal to a different computer and it might potentially work better. Currently, this is streaming directly from the same computer to YouTube, so I might need to do some tweaks, in that realm. I also need to probably move where my Rode mixer is so I can push the button when I need to. All right, so we're gonna go hop over to the next line. Which is let's talk about. There's one of these lines I felt like I did a bajillion times. Jump there. Like I've already said, I mean, even without being able to see what's in the program window, because I have a nice transcription of the video, I've been able to hop around and get a rough edit done without really being able to see anything. Well, that's of course not normally the case when I'm doing any kind of edit. It showcases how quick and easy it is to edit and how much it speeds up the process when you're able to jump exactly to the lines you say. You can jump around, any kind of mistakes. You can listen to it, double check, cut, next. Normally you'd have to scrub through all of that to find the line. You're like, okay, that's not quite. Let me scrub to the next one. That doesn't sound right. Let's scrub the next one. I mean, you might have a general idea of how many takes you did, but you're not 100% precise where it is along in the clip. But by having the transcription, you just pop to the next spot, pop to the next spot, and just keep moving, and it allows you to just get your editing done super, super fast. Of course, since I'm, having a conversation here and, trying to, talk about what I'm doing along the way, I'm going slower than I normally would. But I mean, this is generally my overall process is, you know, duplicate my folder structure, you know, copy everything to those folders, duplicate my template Premiere project, bring everything over into the corresponding bins for my folder structure, and create the sequence, transcribe any footage that has dialogue, and or that's an interview, basically anything that with words in it, and I just start chopping up, start chopping up accordingly. There are other times I do other techniques, but we're not going to get into that, today, just because it would be make things a little bit more complicated than it might already seem to some people. But yeah, we're just going to keep on, cutting everything out. Is this the line? Oh, this is the line I said like, yeah, a bajillion times. If you're out on location,
If you're out on location and the ground's uneven, like a rocky trail or a sloped hillside, you can set the cine saddle directly on the ground and still get a steady shot without worrying about adjusting tripod legs.
so I need to get to that second spot right there. Cut that off. I don't get double ifs.
If you're out on location and the ground's uneven, like a rocky trail or a sloped hillside,
Okay, yep, I get that point. Without having to adjust tripod legs. I think one example that I've used it for a lot is getting shots of stuff in farm fields. I would just run out there, be up on a hill, drop the bag, throw the camera on it, get the shot, and then hop back in the vehicle and go to the next spot to get, other B-roll shots. Just quick. I was able to, keep moving, without having to, break out the tripod every single time. Oh, been talking a lot today between recording this, these videos and doing the live stream. My voice is getting a little dry. All right. I said, I've even. Oh man, this one I've done a lot too. So all these can go away. And then we go back to here.
I've even used it to rest the camera on a car dashboard to get a quick interior angle. You don't always need a full rig or mount when something like this simple can get the job done.
Simple. Oh, my dog's complaining because he's kind of been stuck in here with me for a while. We'll be done shortly. Just want to get a nice start on this. Kind of showcase what I've used it. This one. Oh, looks like I have another take that might be better. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Let's see how this one sounds.
I've used it to rest the camera on a car dashboard to get a quick interior angle. You don't always need a full rig or mount when something this simple can get the job done.
I think I like that one better. Like I said, it's generally always the last one. Not the case every single time, but most of the time. Okay. Weather. Looks like I might have missed the line.
The Cine saddle isn't flashy. It doesn't have screens, motors, or fancy branding all over it, but it's one of those tools that just quietly solves problems and keeps your kit agile and adaptable.
Agile and adaptable. All right. Okay. If you're working solo,
If you're working solo, shooting content on the go, or just looking
okay. Oops, what the heck was that? Pull that out, make sure. Okay.
It's the kind of gear that won't impress anybody on set until you pull it out, set up a rock solid shot in 10 seconds, and save the day.
Might not always be the case, but I love using it. And then we got our final little line here, which I said more than likely the very last one. Close that out. Let's see.
If you found this video helpful, drop a like and comment below with your favorite cinematography technique, or let me know how you'd use a cine saddle. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more filmmaking content, gear breakdowns, tips, and tutorials to help you level up your videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
Boop. And that is basically my initial cut of this whole video. Let's see, we ended up being about 5 minutes long, which is probably going to adjust slightly when I start adding a B-roll to it. More probably in a longer length. Especially I put my intro in there at the beginning, my little intro video. Put some B-roll, readjust everything a little bit. It will, definitely be longer than 5 minutes long, which I think is what I was trying to hit for anyway. Between 5 and 6 minutes on this video. The next two videos I'm trying to hit like 5 to 6 minutes, and then I got a longer one coming on after that. But I mean, that's basically kind of like my basic getting started with Premiere. We started with our folder structure. Right, like as you see here, we got our initial folder. In this case, called "What is a Cine Saddle," and then underneath that we have all our subfolders: audio, export, graphics, still images, and video clips. Super basic. It's how I set up all my video projects. You can have more folders, of course, like in the case of audio, you can have sound effects, music, and the works. But this is generally how I just set up pretty much all my projects to keep it, quick and simple. We took our Premiere template, duplicated it. The Premiere template already had all our bins already created. Our bins coincide with how our folder structure is set up on our drive so that we always know where everything is. Of course, then we created our sequence. Because the audio was separate, I dropped the video clip and the audio down onto the timeline and synchronized them. Then I started basically going through and chopping it up after I transcribed it, of course. Use the transcribe to edit the whole thing down, getting rid of all the mistake stuff. There'll of course be slight little tweaks where the audio trails off and all that kind of stuff, and of course B-roll. But this is basically how I get started with any video that has dialogue, any video that's I wouldn't necessarily say any video that's dialogue because I do it slightly different if I'm doing a short film, but that's a whole different kind of thing. But when I'm generally doing talking heads like this or interviews, those kind of things, this is how I edit. I'm generally able to get it done, pretty quickly, get it laid out. Because then from this point, now it's just a matter of interlacing it with the B-roll, doing some audio tweaks, doing some color grading, throw in any kind of lower thirds or any other kind of graphic, and boom. I can usually turn around, a 5 to 10 minute video if I have, full days to do them, in a couple days. Now that's kind of really pushing it. Like I would generally like a little bit more leeway time so I can, fine tune it. But I can generally get away with that, if I really have to. I prefer more time because then what I could do is I could actually spend more time with the audio. I could spend more time with the color grading, the sound, all that. I can just really just adjust it and fine tune it and make it a stellar piece. Especially the color grading. Like ideally, I would like to take it out of Premiere, going into Resolve, doing all my tweaks there, and turning it back around and exporting it out. Don't always have that time, but this is kind of my quick and dirty, getting started in Premiere. But as I said at the beginning, the biggest key that I always harp on is organize, organize, organize. That's why I have my folder structure template, why I have my Premiere project template, so that my bins, my folders are all exactly the same every single time, that I always know where everything is. If I copy stuff to a different drive and I open up the project's ready to go. It just makes everything simple every single time. So that's why I kind of, go with this kind of flow when it comes to my organization. But I harp on this so much, like I probably am beating the dead horse, or however you want to refer to it as. But it's because I just see people struggle when they're getting started because of how they organize. They start building their project, they don't know where things are, and they start having errors, they start having issues, and it all boils down to organization. So I'm probably going to continue to preach that particular item until I'm blue in the face, because I feel like it's the most important part. It makes you efficient editor, it makes you a professional editor, it makes you a great editor. Now I say that's why it always starts with organization, and you should make that your focus when you're getting started. But definitely appreciate everyone stopping by, especially those on YouTube, with me trying to give this a little bit of a whirl to see how it works. We still have some little tweaks to kind of work out, especially when it comes to like some of this playback here. You see, I'm not getting video playback. So definitely need to figure that out. Might just need to route things a little bit differently, not entirely sure. But yeah, we're going to of course call it a day here over on Twitch. What it's going to do, it's going to switch back over to my 24-hour content. But definitely appreciate everyone stopping by, and I guess what we'll do is we'll see everybody next time.